this morning, the human-wildlife conflict. These are things we have to talk about. Last year, we saw international bodies, converge to talk about climate change. But what is the follow-up like? What next? Are we still feeling bits of this into 2022? And when the youth decide we will do something about it and have children in primary schools actually plant trees, because I can tell you for sure, back in history, we'd have amazing politicians, the late Wangari Maathai, plant trees every other time they, inaugurated something or something was opened, there was always tree planting. Do we no longer have that time anymore, or is it me who has lost track of how things are going when it means going green? It is one of the big four agenda to have a healthy nation, but if we leave out the environment, how do we achieve this? We want to boost the economy, but this is directly related to the GDP. The youth are crying out for employment. They're crying out for, better living standards and better lives. But if the environment doesn't really favor that ecosystem balance, are we not going to be in poverty for the longest time? So what if this is the answer to poverty eradication in the country? Welcome to the big conversation. My name is Anki Doris-Sambat, and do not ask me why there's no woman in the panel this morning. But gentlemen, it's good to have you.
Thank you.
Your smiles speak it all. It's like there's going to be fire right here this morning.
Definitely.
Elijah Muga on my far left. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Anki.
I can see your t-shirt is written Vijana Wajiweza.
Yeah.
Wajiweza means they can do it by themselves?
They're able.
They are able.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Safari Sydney.
Yes.
How are you, sir?
I'm good, Anki. Thank you.
It's good to have you on set.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
We're looking forward to your sentiments when it comes to...
Fired up.
You're fired up?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay, thank you for that. And Clive, it's really good to have you. You're a student?
No, currently I'm not a student, but I am an activist.
You are an activist, environmental activist.
Yes.
You have been in different parts of the world just speaking this same thing.
Yeah.
And this is where you're calling it that.
Yes.
Okay, now as we're looking at activism, politics, 2022 is here, but we're seeing a different angle of activism where you're saying, I'm standing for the environment. Now, let's go straight into it. Climate justice. A lot of people call it climate change. Now, we're seeing an activist here, so then brings the reason why it's not just climate change, because that's a normal conversation. It is climate justice. Clive, just let us know why it is now gotten to the point where we're no longer saying global change, global warming, climate change, but now we're talking about justice.
So today we are experiencing a planetary emergency because we are experiencing the planet is becoming warmer and warmer, and the matter of climate change is now changing it quickly to climate justice, because we want to see coherent fiscal incentives whereby we can build resilient communities that can tackle the climate crisis and build better towards the global goals. And so today we are seeing it's a planetary emergency, and that's why we're calling it as a climate justice.
Yeah, I like that. And when he said we have to build capacity within the communities to be able to deal with that change, I think that's where the powerful bit comes in. Yeah. Elijah Omuga and Sydney, you have been in some sort of movement, trying to work with what Clive is saying, preaching this, word. Like, this is what you need to do, this is how to package your next generation. Let's talk about what you did earlier on. Panda Miti. Yes, Elijah.
So basically, at Vijana Wajiweza, we have different initiatives. And since last year, we decided to have initiatives that empower the youth towards environmental conservation. Because we believe the talk is viable and it's good, but also we need to have some action backing up the talk. Okay. So basically what we do is we work with different people in the community. We focus on teaching children how to plant trees and also take care of trees. So basically for this particular project, what we do is we develop environmental clubs in primary schools, and then we also develop a green zone in the school. So we plant the trees in there, and we have the kids in the environmental club water them, take care of them as they grow. And they adopt the plant. So if we plant 200 seedlings, then we have 200 kids naming each tree after themselves.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, so when they get to school in the morning, the first thing they do is they go and water the plant. Before they leave school in the evening, they go and water the plant at the same time.
I think.
Yeah, I believe if we keep doing that, then we'll have all these primary schools planting trees all over the country. I think there's some degree of carbon that we'll be able to reduce from that initiative.
And when we're talking about going green, Clive and Sydney, I saw you nodding. That's actually the ultimate goal. We need to go green. And we have lost more trees. We saw President Uhuru Kenyatta last year in one of the global, conferences talking about putting aside some amount of money for reforestation. Now it's into 2022, and I need to hear from you now that you work with the community directly. How far this has gone? Was the money dispersed? You're actually groups that work directly with this kind of activity. Is it working right now, Safari, as you're speaking?
Definitely it's working.
Yes.
And I would like to give a big thanks to the president for actually mandating the 10% cover, because what we have been fighting for is the behavioral change of our children.
Okay.
Can they learn to take care of trees? Because if not them, then who? If not us to teach them, then who? So we must bring in a lot of people, big entities, countries as well, embassies. Everyone should be all engaged in this conversation. The world is in a ticking time bomb. We need to address this now.
I like when you say we need to address this now, and the fact that you mentioned the world. Clive, you've been out there vocal globally on this, climate justice activism. Please give us a comparison of what other countries are doing, because what you're doing is amazing. But what is it that we are not picking? From your experience out there and your representation in several different countries, what did you pick? Are we doing well? Are we progressing well? Because this is not the first time we're talking about climate change in the country.
Yeah, so I'll start by saying today in Africa we are in critical dire situation when it comes to climate crisis. Because recently we are seeing Cyclone Anna is striking the southern part of Africa, claiming lives, and we are experiencing more climate-related disasters in Africa than ever. When we compare this to the Western world, first world countries, we see they are ramping up their efforts towards carbon neutrality, commitments, and global pledges. But still, we people from most affected people and areas, we people from MAPA and Africa and Kenya specifically, we are still experiencing more dire situations, causing biodiversity to extinction, humanity suffering more, and this exacerbates even further discrimination and violation of human rights. Because when we check even on women's rights, women are proportionately affected because they are the forefront. Because in local communities, we see women are the one who they're supposed to fetch water, collect firewood, and because there is extreme weather patterns, we see rivers are drying up, and so we see women and girls that are being forced to walk even longer distance to search for water and resources, and this is critically wrong. And when you compare also this to the Western world, the first world countries, world leaders at COP26, they pledged at giving us, $1 billion yearly to mitigate climate crisis. But still this is not happening. We want more corporates to come on board, multilateral sectors and global leaders, and also even we people from MAPA regions. Yes, we are emitting less, but we also need to ramp up our efforts in terms of carbon neutrality, securing our forests and green spaces. And that reminds me, today our Kenyan government is pledging to increase forest cover and also cut deforestation by 2030. But also when we check, Parliament wants to re-amend the Constitution, the KFS, for them to have more people that can have in conversational lobby forests, forests and green spaces. But this is something that we are going to boycott as activists, as conservationists, because if that happens, it means that people can grab green spaces and nothing we can do. And that's why we want more people to act decisively and coherent to curb the climate crisis. And also driving back to what Elijah had said about bringing children on board. This is critical because we are securing the future as young people, and trees act as carbon sequestration.
Absolutely.
Because when we plant trees, we are absorbing carbon, and also we are reducing the greenhouse gas emissions.
I like when you talk about grabbing. Now, not even today, but this has been something we're highlighting in the news almost every other time, about the human-wildlife conflict.
Yes.
Now, the human are these children, all right? The human is myself and you know, on the panel. And as we are speaking, there seems to be, like you said, a lot of grabbing. I don't know if this is part of something you do, Sydney. Is there sensitization around this? Because then we have the Land Commission.
Yes.
These people actually acquired this land. And they can show you title deeds. I know Sydney, you're aware of that, Clive, you're aware of that. Now I even had something called a land certificate, which I'm not sure about. But what are you people talking about on the ground in connection to what Clive has talked about?
Actually, I like how Clive has put it, because basically what we are trying to do is amplify our voice using the young children, but also ourselves, because human and wildlife conflict is like, if you look in the Savo, why are elephants going through people's farms? It's because there's dried up rivers. The last time there was rain in Savo was 11 months ago. So where is our wildlife if they're all found in other people's farms? And when they fence these farms, then there's no wildlife to see in the Savo. How do we get our income in tourism? So there's so many problems that if we can start opening up, it will just be a big Pandora's box. We need the politicians, especially the ones that are campaigning. For us, Vijana Wajiweza, the AGZ program is basically geared to tell the politicians, amplify your voice. If you're going to be campaigning, talk about the children, talk about the environment. These are the things that are burning. These are the issues that need to be addressed now. So with our AGZ program, the Adopt a Green Zone program, we are now gearing to look at the big companies, the big commodity producing companies. We bring them into conversation. What are you guys doing? What are your CSR programs geared to? How are we going to help the children, the people that are going to, the future, basically? These are the people who are going to live in this world. Because by 2050, and the studies are showing that almost every year we will be hit by typhoons and storms, every coastal city. Is that a future we want for our children or our country? We want to amplify our voice as high and as loud as possible.
All right.
Yes.
And I like when you say that it is our responsibility. I know you've touched on the politicians and the government's role, but we are stakeholders, even as we're watching back at home. You know, there's an article that made it very clear, and they started by stating that the climate crisis will not wait for us. Elijah, I need to hear from you. I don't know how many times in January we face random downpour, but this year, in January, there was sudden downpour.
It's been
about 2 minutes, the rain takes 2 minutes, goes off again.
a shaky,
So I don't know, what are your perspectives on that, Clive? Is it something to do with the climate change?
Yes, definitely.
For me, first of all, today we are experiencing unpredictable weather patterns that even science cannot even predict. It's really weird. In January we're having rainfall, and also because this is happening already. What we need to do is, it means we need to act decisively, as he had said. We need to act decisively, calling everybody on board, the stakeholders, the government officials, and even young people at large, because mitigating the climate crisis, it needs for collective action and ambition, because no country can cope on its own, but through collective action and ambition.
Okay, and I want to hear your sentiments on that as well, Elijah.
We have experienced this wave of everyone trying to fight for something for themselves.
Okay.
And I think it's now time that we need to realize that it's just not about me, and it's just not about you individually. At Vijana Wajiweza, we believe in collective working to achieve a goal. And these environmental programs, the issues of environment is actually not one single person's issue. It's something that we need to work, all of us collectively. What Clive said about politicians fighting to push that bill so that the issue, it's just basically just individual interest so that someone can get a piece of land for themselves. We need to get out of that. It's old-fashioned. The level where you are trying to bump up all that just for yourself and your family doesn't really work. It's actually the stupid option amongst all the other options, because the carbon issue is affecting everyone collectively.
Including
including them themselves.
All right.
It's like they're trying to put a hole inside the boat that they're also inside.
So we all get to sing.
To that point,
Yes.
driving back last year, we remember unknown people shot Joanna Stachbury because she was protecting Kiambu Forest. But later, our president promised us he's going to drive the wheels of justice towards getting justice for Joanna Stachbury, but still nothing had happened. Later we saw our CS for Environment, Keriako Tobiko, saying he had politician names who were involved in that situation, but still we're seeing no justice that is happening. Generally, people are acting to the detriment of conservation and to the detriment of our green spaces for their personal aims and personal interest. And this is something that we need to come collectively and speak about, because even sometimes when we arrange peaceful strikes, we face reparations, we face illegal detentions, and also we face just pushbacks, a lot of pushbacks from government officials. Even issuing a permit is difficult to give us to have climate strikes, and this is something that we need everybody on board to amplify our collective voice.
Yeah.
And I want to just hear from the viewer this morning. If you're watching us live, let us know on our WhatsApp number at the bottom of the screen, and also on our social media platforms. Are you directly affected by what we are talking about this morning? What are your recommendations as well? From where you sit, are you a climate change or environmental activist? Have you faced, the few things that Clive is talking about here on set? Are you a victim? All right, let us know. Really, we'd love to hear from you, be part of the conversation. And also, if you're a school, I would love to, have Sydney and of course Clive and Elijah, come on board, and with your students and pupils. We'd love to hear from you right here on Look Up TV. Now, there's been a conversation around, in the country. Let's talk about the grassroots. I don't know how far you've gone with your projects, but if you go to Mamamboga or the old woman, let's say in Kajiado, Wajir, Turkana, they might just challenge you and say, this is probably a natural cycle. I don't know if you've had that conversation. It seems like there's less information out here, or people are just ignorant, or they just don't want to be in the space where there's contention. Because if I read one of the articles that is very available, now there's information everywhere, they say we know that burning fossils like fuels like coal, oil and natural gas releases vast amounts of carbon dioxide. This is something we learn in chemistry. I mean, it's in the process as you go through education. We know that carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, is it? And that the GHGs trap heat from the sun in our atmosphere. So carbon dioxide could not only be negative per se entirely. That's what they're saying. And there's that relation. And they're also saying we know that the concentration of that particular gas into the atmosphere has increased dramatically, as you've said, since the Industrial Revolution. It's getting worse, like you said. Now, indeed, we know that there is more of that gas into the atmosphere today at a point of past 800,000 years later. But what they're saying is this seems to be coming with the Industrial Revolution. Are things just taking shape naturally? That has been a question. They say, why are activists so loud about it? It is just a natural cycle. What do you have to say about this?
I think I can take that on, give it my 2 cents. First of all, when you brought the point of the public, mostly we are uninformed. We have not gotten the ability to understand what climate change is at the grassroots level. Because trying to explain to someone at that level what the benefits of doing conservation or taking care of the environment does in the bigger picture really needs to be looked at, especially by the government. We need to find a way, either electronically, social media-wise, some way to reach Mamamboga, some way to reach our children. We need to find a nice, perfect injection to tell our people, this is what is happening. Forget about all these things, about unequivocal things, but what is affecting us, the way we breathe, the way we live, and the way your neighbors live. If that can change, if that small thing can change, they should also see that, the bigger picture is much bigger than they thought. Because, we're all saving the environment, one person at a time.
But how many years down the line?
I don't know, Auntie, if we need to. The damage has already been done. A lot of it, a huge chunk of it has already been done. The thing is now collective effort, just like I said. from what Clive is doing, from whatever we're doing in every other program that we do.
Yeah.
I think we just need to now work on whatever has been done. How can we reduce it, and how can we move into a future that has less of that?
Okay.
Basically, that's the reason why we are focused on teaching the kids to plant trees.
Yes.
Because at least as we've made a lot of damage, but then when they're coming in with a bit more information, they'll basically make less damage and will reduce the deposits that are already there. Because when you plant trees, trees do consume the carbon that is there in the environment. And we have a lot of deposits out there that has been created by those companies over the years. So we need to do something that clears that as we pump up the conversations, basically. So it's just a lot of work that needs to be done at the same time. And that's the reason why it's not really fair to sit back and chill and say it's none of my business. A lot of people believe it's none of their business because they're breathing, they're having a good time, the clock turns round from 8 to 8. But we need to at least use a bit of the information that we had from school. In Kenya, we have a population that is educated, but also a big chunk of the educated population is very ignorant at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah, because you can't just say, me, I've gone to school, I'm going to my work, I'm coming back to the house, everything is fine. There's also this thing of the environment that people need to do a bit of research about it. So conversations that go around it, we need to have it on social media, we need to have programs, we need to have everything going around from whatever the president did, that's just the start of it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we need to have all this collective effort, and also as we are trying to reach out to the corporates, because they are the ones who can make a bigger impact.
And when you talk about the corporates, I was looking at how climate change is directly linked to our health. Look, there's COVID-19, there's the pandemic, which is a respiratory worry. And I'm getting a research, there's so much research, I'm just going to refer to them, and Clive, I need to hear your sentiments on this. And they're saying some of the consequences of climate change include worsening allergy seasons. People did not know why their allergies are a bit too much. Now newborn babies, if nurses are watching, midwives are watching, or hospitals are watching, are born with certain types of allergies that we can hardly understand.
They were not there before.
And they were not there before, and other respiratory worries. And this is probably, people are asking, could this be also another result of not taking care of our climate?
Yeah, so generally I'll begin by saying today zoonotic diseases are on the rise, and we may even later experience more severe diseases than COVID-19, because today we humanity, we have encroached wildlife critical ecosystems. We are having a closer vicinity with wildlife. We are eating, we are continuing with the illegal market, we are laundering illegal wildlife meat and wildlife trade, and this illegal wildlife meat, some of them contain different types of diseases such as anthrax and those types of zoonotic diseases. And when we look on the global goals, the Sustainable Development Goals, they already provide us with a blueprint on what the future can look like, because it encompasses on how we can secure our biodiversity, how we can end hunger, how we can tackle the climate change. But still people are engaging in illegal wildlife trade, and because zoonosis are on the rise also, we have encroached more critical biodiversity systems. We are channeling sewers into our rivers, and still that rivers downstream people are using it, and these are it amplifies to even more devastating cycles of unknown diseases, and we still need to invest a lot in cleaning our rivers. Like Nairobi River, it's a no-go zone totally. And when I was in Switzerland, I saw their rivers were totally clean. People can swim in rivers, but Nairobi, when you think of swimming in Nairobi River, it's
how many of you watching back at home have thought of swimming in the Nairobi River? Have you swum in there? Clive says it's a no-go zone. And even as we take a very short break, I will just, on a light note, touch on a new, as this article was released, it was a new finding, but it was talking about climate change leading us to some foods becoming less nutritious. Yeah, so we're talking about eat healthy, protect yourself against the pandemic, but what are we eating? The climate change is making them less nutritious, and they're saying, well, this area of research is relatively new. Scientists project that increased atmospheric carbon dioxide speeds up photosynthesis, the process that helps plants transform sunlight to food.
Exactly.
I don't know if you gentlemen agree with that.
We definitely do.
So we're building a less healthy nation as well.
Yeah.
Clearly a ticking time.
So our impact, whatever we're doing is impacting our lives directly, but we don't just know.
We just don't know, or we're choosing, like you said, to be ignorant.
Yeah.
I'll take a short break right here on the big conversation. You're watching The Morning Drift. However, we want to hear from you on Twitter as well, at Lookup TV, at Doris Anki, and at the many handles that you will see there. Let us know what your sentiments are. Hashtag The Morning Drift. And remember, what we're talking about is not just one of those conversations that we've had in the past 800 years. It is now no longer climate change, global warming, because people use that interchangeably, but it is now call for justice, and we're saying climate justice. Let us know if you're a youth watching from wherever you are. What are you doing? What are the projects you're doing? Do you need certain partnerships? What corporates do you think should step in? Of course, a great shout out to Activism, which is very vocal about going green, and Clive and the rest of you on set. But after we take a short break, we're going deeper into this conversation. And now, you need to be part of it. Your questions should make part of the next segment. We'll be right back. Thank you for keeping it The Morning Drift. Thank you very much for staying tuned. You are still watching Look Up TV. And on the big conversation so far on the climate justice, we've taken a deeper look into climate change, why it is no longer a normal conversation, and we actually need action accompanying this conversation. So we're calling out to all of you on our Twitter handle at LookUpTV, hashtag The Morning Drift, and let us know what can be done. Now, solution-driven conversations right here on Look Up TV. And Clive, welcome back. Sydney and Elijah, it's good to have young men on the forefront for climate justice.
Yeah.
I would ask you though where the women are at, but later on as we, end this conversation. We've seen Clive do a lot of, projects, plastic, cleaning up the environment, planting trees with you, Elijah, in Sydney, among other things. But what really is the call for action as we're speaking today?
So basically, my projects have been rounding with the SDGs, because we believe that SDGs are blueprint to the securing the future. And so we've been planting trees, we've been cleaning rivers, we've been calling people to make efforts in making contact with biodiversity and land. We've also been asking people to embrace easier actions of conserving water, and also easier actions to mitigate the climate crisis and reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. And so on tree planting, we have been planting trees with school kids. We have been planting trees with community-based institutions like churches, just calling people on board through a simple action challenge, whereby you don't really have to use a lot of resources, but the impact that you're making is counting everywhere. Also on beating plastic pollution campaign, we've been partnering with different organizations, such as the Environmental Club of Africa Nazarene University. We've been working with them as well. And so generally, through the 1 Million Action Challenge, we are working with people from age 10 to age 30, whereby we want them to come on board to work with us, because we believe that working together collectively is whereby we can get a collective solution.
All right. Let's talk about the 1 Million Youth Action Challenge.
Yeah, so the 1 Million Youth Action Challenge, it's an initiative. We launched it by the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation in Switzerland, whereby we are calling for people from grassroots levels to act collectively. We are working with 4 SDGs on clean water and sanitation, climate action, life on land, and sustainable consumption and production, because we believe working with these 4 SDGs, we believe working with them it's critical, because like sustainable consumption and production, it's giving people a roadmap on how we can reduce the GHG, because there's a lot of unsustainability in terms of consumption and production. And also on biodiversity, today we see biodiversity is on a steep decline, and that's why we're really emphasizing on securing the life on land, because if biodiversity goes extinct like bees, generally humanity can go extinct as well. Dinosaurs thought that they had time, but still they went extinct. And this is why we need everybody on board to join us and work together. So at 1 Million Youth Action Challenge, you can join us. You can check our website, onemayak.com, whereby you can register as a partner to work with us, and we will reach out to you on how you can get on board with us.
Amazing, thank you, that was really detailed. And I want to now come to the Vijana Wajiweza. For me, this is a really, strong, brand that you guys came up with, Vijana Wajiweza, because for a long time it's been, we need to be, pulled out here, we need to be, we need to be poked to do things. And so far you have been doing projects as well. I'll give you 2, chances to talk interchangeably in the, how you would best decide between yourselves. Talk about Vijana Wajiweza, and I know that you're calling out for certain partnerships so far. So you could start in whichever order.
I think you can start it.
I think I'll go first.
Okay.
Because, at Vijana Wajiweza, we have 2 different projects that are very similar. They are all about tree planting. They are all about developing green zones in public spaces. But Sydney works on the corporate side, and I work basically on the public individual side.
Okay.
So I'll talk about my side. My side is called Penda Miti Panda Miti. Penda Miti Panda Miti is an initiative that encourages people who are not able to go and physically plant trees. We are encouraging those people to use Vijana Wajiweza to plant the trees. So basically at Vijana Wajiweza, we work with the youth that do the boring of the holes, the planting, and taking care of the spaces. So if you come to Panda Miti Panda Miti initiative, then you can have a tree planted without you physically being there.
Okay.
But all along the life of the tree, we ask you to at least come during your birthday or during special days to come and have a look at the tree that you sponsored. So at Panda Miti, you can come on board and say, okay, I want to give like 200 shillings to have 1 tree on my own name.
So it's not a free thing.
It can't be free, because trees, to plant them you need water, you need someone to keep going there over and over. And this is also the initiative that we use to build youth empowerment, because the youth that take care of the trees are paid by that money that you guys contribute to make it work.
Amazing.
And Panda Miti also originated from schools. Now we have a green zone in Gay Primary School, where we have children between grade 4 and grade 6 taking care of the trees. And that is a public school where we always call upon people. Every time we do tree planting, we always call people to come and take part, even for free, just by being there.
And before you say something, Sydney, there is actually, raising very responsible people in the nation. We've had to actually deal with very broken individuals, irresponsible adults, and now what you guys are doing is directly actually affecting the next generation in terms of responsibility, accountability, etc. Sydney.
So my flagship or my duties at Vijana Wajiweza is running the flagship initiative called the Adopt a Green Zone, that now we are bringing corporates into the conversation, that with the program that we have set up, we are going to employ youths who are going to take care of these trees that the corporates will now say, quote unquote, adopt. So we have identified schools and rehabilitated or areas that could be rehabilitated for these green zones. And we want to change them into green spaces, places that where the youth can go and engage themselves, because we don't have these social halls anymore.
Recreational areas.
Exactly. And another point that Clive has said very meticulously about the SDGs. I think our project is hitting mostly on the 4 and the one on mental health, because growing trees is also a good practice.
It's a therapy.
It's very therapeutic, taking care of the trees and actually having something to do.
And they grow
to go and wake up and take care of the tree. And with the Dr. Green Zone, we are now trying to bring in the corporates into that particular conversation. What can you do? How can you empower the youth, to take care of these trees at least 3 times a week for those 3 months, because you have a flagship project of about 500,000 trees in these green zones. So what we can bring in, all the strength, all the power from these big groups is that financial injection to at least empower this youth. We hit the mark on at least fair pay, so these people have something to do in the morning. Poverty, we need to economically balance the country after COVID. People have lost a lot of jobs. So what we're basically trying to do is give people something to do that will also benefit them and the environment at large.
And you say people, the entire time my mind is on the youth.
Yes,
because even my crew
exclusively
are very young people.
Exclusively the youth.
And when Elijah said, of course, as we're wrapping up, that you need to find a more wiser way to actually bring the communities into doing this. I like that you touched on mental health.
Yeah.
I am actually thinking of beginning this life baby tree with my name on it, because the truth is the world is suffering mental health, and some of these things is the many things you cannot understand that have erupted from the changing climate, including allergies and health situations, respiratory issues, less nutritious food, lack of jobs. That is where the mental health is at. And having us mitigate that with actually bringing back what we lost is actually the balance we're looking at. Gentlemen, I think I've loved the conversation. Elijah is smiling. Should we all agree that we should let Elijah?
I forgot there's one initiative that's really going on that we need to give a tap on the back. The KDF has been planting trees.
Amazing, yes.
The Kenya Defense Forces has been planting a lot of trees in different areas, and no one is talking about it. No one is appreciating it, and they're doing it just for us. I think we need to appreciate the KDF for the work well done.
I think leaders should also take a note from them.
Yes.
Yeah, and also I think generally we need to continue making peace with nature, call everybody on board, stakeholders, government officials, and we act collectively in securing the future, because global goals already provide a blueprint of what the future can be. So let's take action and be more ambitious than ever.
Yes.
You have continually talked about the blue, blueprint, the blue economy. So we're looking forward to 120 joining us for another conversation, because these are conversations that never end. There should be a follow-up conversation. I will be looking at what, how many people you have reached in the 1 million challenge. I'll be looking at which other school you're working on. So just we see that there's not too much talk and less action. This is 2022, gentlemen. More action. For climate justice.
More action.
And all the mothers watching this morning, now you understand what could have been the underlying issue. Let's not make everything genetical. Let's take a look at our books. They say if you want to hide anything from an African, just keep it right there in the book. So focus Africans, focus Kenyans, focus climate justice activists, focus into those books, in the articles. Maybe one of these people is an author. Check out their names, follow their pages if you have a blog. Let's get this information up there, share it with them, discuss these things with your children. Parents, you're the answer we're looking for. I take another short break. Thank you very much for watching The Morning Drift. I am so honored to have this conversation and you being part of it. We come in with the Aspirant Forum and the Extraordinary. We'll be right back.